What would you say your favorite Christmas carol is?
My favorite non-religion-y Christmas carol is kind of problematic to my feminist sensibilities, but I really like it.
No, don't, Liz. Don't tell me.
I'm not going to say that.
Is it Baby It's Cold Outside?
Yes, it is. I know. Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
So raise a glass and let's get started.
So, Liz, what are you doing today?
I am drinking Chateau St. Jean 2015 Chardonnay. It is from California.
Nice.
It says, on the back, it says, showcasing notes of lemon, pear, and apple with hints of vanilla and brown spices in the finish. I will be the judge of that, sir!
I'm drinking honey mead by Fertile. It's basically wine made with honey instead of grapes, is the way I understand it. It's older than wine, though.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it says in the back here, the first known fermented beverage, mead has played a role in the founding of every civilization in the world. And this is from a winery in Weston, Missouri.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty close to here. Weston is where all the locals tell all the tourists to go during the holidays to see things. They're like, oh, go see the lights.
Go see the lights. Or go antique shopping in Herman.
Yeah.
Get away from us.
Go away.
Shoot.
But I
Happy Christmas.
picked mead because we are talking about one of the oldest Christmas stories that any of us know,
Yes.
The Christmas Carol.
By Charles Dickens.
Did you like Dickens growing up?
The only Dickens I knew growing up was A Christmas Carol, because from the time I was 4 and onward, every year, my grandparents would buy our whole family tickets to go see A Christmas Carol at UMTC. And so we would go every single year. I'd be dressed up in a cute little outfit dressed with bow and lace and probably glitter. And we would go see A Christmas Carol every year. So it wasn't until I was older that I'm like, oh yeah, he's done other stuff too.
It's true. I think A Christmas Carol was probably my first introduction to Dickens.
Yes.
But when I was in high school, we read Great Expectations and A Tale of Two Cities. And we read A Tale of Two Cities in sophomore year of high school. And I don't know if you would be surprised to know this, considering it is about French history, but I fucking loved it. I'm sure we're
Casey,
shocked by this turn of events.
I am so shocked.
I loved it. I wanted to talk about it extensively, and all of my classmates hated it and did not want to talk about it. And my teacher told me there is always one student in the class who actually likes Dickens. But most people don't actually like Dickens, and part of the reason for that is because he was paid by the word.
Yes.
Because back in the day, his stories, his novels, what are now novels, were published as serials in magazines. So they would publish a chapter at a time each week or each month in whatever magazine it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he was paid for however many words were in each chapter. And so Dickens, naturally, in order to make more money and not starve to death and die in the streets, became rather wordy as an author.
Yes.
And so he's not for everybody.
I have tried so hard to get through David Copperfield. And I get a couple hours in and then I quit. And I do a few more hours and I quit. And I've been reading that book for like 6 months because I like,
You know who else is really wordy?
Who?
Victor Hugo.
Yes, he is.
And the Parisian sewers. And the sewers. Did I mention the sewers?
And Marius is a nod duck, but we will get to that later.
What a boy.
We're focusing on Merry Old England.
Merry Old England, The Christmas Carol. I don't know if we need to really rehash this for you, but we're going to.
Because it's such a classic thing. Like there's children's TV episodes where they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna base this around A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. I mean, people do parodies of it all the time. There are children's versions of it. Like there's the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is the best version.
I love that one. That's definitely the best version. It's the best version.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine
is Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge, who is a moneylender.
Moneylender, yes.
Who hates everybody.
Yes.
and is very bitter, hasn't got any friends, hasn't got any family, but he does have his
nephew
Fred, who is kind to him for some reason.
Fred is Scrooge's much younger sister's son.
Mm-hmm. And for some reason, Fred is kind to him, which I never really understood reading it, because Scrooge never gives Fred any reason to be decent to him at all, especially early on in the novel. But the novel basically opens with
Fred. Marley was dead to begin with.
So
that's a pretty good opening line.
Marley was Scrooge's partner, who had died. He is
7 Christmas Eves previous to the setting of the book.
Yes. So he had died on Christmas Eve 7 years ago, and here we are 7 years later. Scrooge is refusing to close his business, refusing to give his nephew time off, being basically
Bob Cratchit.
A dick. Yeah, Bob Cratchit. Yeah. Not his nephew. Basically being
refusing to go to dinner at his nephew's.
That's right. His nephew shows up and asks him to dinner, and he's like, "No, we're open." And Bob Cratchit's like, "Well, I want to go home to dinner." And he's like, "Nope, we're open." Basically being what we now know as a Scrooge. Like that actually, the term was coined by this character. So they work all through the evening, and then Scrooge retires to bed, and that's when he sees his first ghost,
which is the approach of Marley.
Which
I will say, when I saw the UMKC production of it, that scared me every single time. It's a like they would have like dry ice, and then they would have the actor come up from the trap door like really fast, so it was like really quick and sudden, and it would scare the crap out of me every time. My mom would have me hide my eyes until it was over.
So Marley shows up, and he is a quintessential ghost. He's all spooky and moaning and covered in chains. And
these are the chains I forged in life.
So basically he tells Scrooge, because I was a grubby little penny pincher and mean to everyone while I was alive, this is my fate in the afterlife.
I am here to make sure you avoid it.
I'm here to try and save you from the same fate. And Scrooge says, "Bah, humbug," and basically blows it off, because that's what Scrooge does when he doesn't like something. It's bah, humbug, and he blows it off.
Mm-hmm. And
of course, Marley was right.
Yes.
And
all the spirits
is visited by more spirits.
Yes. Is that the chance of hope you mentioned? It is. I'd rather not.
So the first spirit to visit Scrooge is the ghost of Christmas past.
Which, this is something that's like not really taken. It's like, expect the first ghost when the bell tolls 1 tonight, expect the second the next night at the same hour. And so it's like, this is supposed to take place over 3 nights.
Yes.
Instead of expect the first ghost when bell tolls 1, and then the second at 2, and the one at 3. They kind of adjusted that for the times, I think.
Well, it's more effective, I think, for Scrooge to have this vision that lasts throughout the course of 1 night. He literally changes overnight. Like, that's more interesting than a man who, is having weird nightmares for a couple of nights, and the third night is finally whatever it snaps him out of it.
Yeah. And that is kind of also interesting, because bells are supposed to, in religion anyway, are supposed to signify the presence of the Holy Ghost. Mm-hmm. So having all these ghosts show up at even Marley, a bell rings before Marley arrives. So that's kind of taking the whole, a bell signifies a spirit.
Yeah. So
I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. The first ghost is the ghost of Christmas past. Well, the second ghost. But the first of the
But the first of the 3 is the ghost of Christmas past.
And that ghost comes to him in the form of a young woman, right? No, that's not.
Young,
kind of ageless. She's kind of described as being beautiful.
Ageless. And also, too, they're also described as being unable to determine any specific gender for this ghost either.
Right. It's a very beautiful cherubic kind of ghost.
Young, and it's very contradictory.
Blonde, like kind of blonde hair, always pictured in like a gauzy white headed gown. In the movies and things, that's what they always make this ghost look like.
Yes.
Usually this ghost is portrayed by a woman in film. And the ghost takes him to his own past.
Yes. Where he sees the boarding school where he was sent and raised. And where you see his sister, his younger sister Fanny, come to get him.
So Fanny comes to get him from the boarding school. So the Ghost of Christmas Past shows him people who have loved him, essentially.
Yes, and Fozziwig and the gentleman he apprenticed with, Dick, and Fozziwig's party, which I always loved that.
Yeah, me too.
In the UMPC version. It was so much fun, and there was like dancing and food, and that turkey always was great, even though I knew it was probably plastic. But that is where he meets Belle.
Yes. And Belle is
a girl he promises his heart to.
The only person he really falls in love with.
Yeah, and it's never said in the book that that's where this happens, but it's what's been alluded to in it.
Yeah.
And you don't even know her name for the first part of it till the last bit in the book. But, and so it shows Scrooge also to the Christmas she releases him from their engagement.
She cuts off their engagement because she feels like he cares more about money
than he does about
than about anything else. Not just her, but about anything else. And she thinks that is not a good trait to have.
Yes. Which, back then, that was a very brave move for her to make.
Yeah, especially since he probably was going to have money.
Yeah, it's a very brave move for her to make. And then the last, you see A Christmas, which was Christmas Past, which was Christmas the year previous. Or no, 7 years previous.
With Marley.
When Marley died. And it is Belle with her oldest daughter and all of her children and her husband, and she's happy. And this is kind of like going, this is the life you could have had with all these beautiful children who love you.
Which Scrooge does. He cries.
He does. He cries.
He realizes what he lost kind of there, and he's very moved by it, and he cries, and the spirit feels this sort of regret, and then the spirit returns into his bed.
After he tries to extinguish the light of the past.
Yes. The next ghost.
Yes.
Is my least favorite.
Really?
A lot of people think the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is the scariest. I think the Ghost of Christmas Present is creepy. Because he's gigantic. He's always got a big red beard in the movies for some reason.
Yes.
He wears this green fur robe. This long drapey robe.
That's mostly open.
He's like a father. He's like an old timey looking Father Christmas is the way I always pictured him. So he's got the broad chest and the big beard, and he's got a garland of holly in his hair, and he wears this big fur robe.
Yeah,
all in green.
The Ghost of Christmas Present does have one of the best points made in the book, in my opinion, about the whole. Well, Scrooge accuses him. He's like, there are people who say this and do this in your name, and he's like, these people are strangers to us. They don't know us any more than a sinner would.
Yeah. No, the Ghost of Christmas Present definitely has a good point, and he takes Scrooge to what's going to happen on that Christmas.
Yes.
To see the Cratchit family preparing for Christmas, and they're all very poor.
And it shows him what happens on Christmas Day all across the world. It's like even the people who are here and have nothing are celebrating Christmas. Yeah. Because it's important to them.
Yeah. So he sees people all over the world celebrating Christmas. He sees his nephew and their family celebrating Christmas, even though they don't have any money, and even though they don't have a lot of free time, and they have a kid who is very ill. They're still having this.
The Cratchits, are still celebrating Christmas, and it's a big deal because it says in the first time that it's like for once everyone at the table had had enough. And I'm like, man, that's a slap on the face.
And Scrooge actually begs the spirit to stay for the whole of the Cratchit's Christmas party.
Yeah, and Fred's.
Because he finds them so warm and kind and happy.
And he forgets himself at Fred's party. He's he's able to sit there and enjoy, and Fred makes a point where it's just kind of what does him slighting us do to us? I mean, he loses out on all this fun and particularly good dinner.
Yeah.
What's that a slight to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His nephew Fred, his wife has no compunction about talking shit about Scrooge.
Well, as a wife, you're you are in someone you love, you're like, I am honor bound to defend you, and if they hurt you, I will kill them. Same thing with Bob Cratchit's wife.
Yeah.
She's very
outspoken
against Scrooge because of the slights that have happened to her husband, and her husband is too kind
to take
stick
offense.
Up for himself. Yeah, to take offense.
So Scrooge stays at Fred's Christmas party throughout the day, and the ghost of Christmas present ages noticeably throughout the Christmas party. He gets older and older.
So the ghost of Christmas present basically gets the one day on Earth, which is Christmas Day.
At which point, this is why I don't like the ghost of Christmas present. He whips open his robe.
Yes. Oh.
And he's got 2 starved children living underneath it. Ignorance and want.
He's like, they are not my children, they are my own. Beware them both, but most of all beware the boy, for I see the doom of man spelled upon his forehead. And that's kind of a reference to the book of Cain.
Well, I think it's kind of, the thing is, you have to take into the context of the novel. And Dickens was writing in London at a time when people could still go to prison because they couldn't pay a bill.
Yeah.
Like, debtor's prison was still very much a thing. There were people living in poverty. There were people living without food. And so for the 2 children here to be ignorance and want, one of them is what most Londoners are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and the other is the Londoners who turn their nose at it and pretend not to see it, essentially. And that's kind of how I read that, is that half of London wants for things like food and shelter and, money, and then the other half is ignorant of that, though the ignorance doesn't necessarily come from not knowing. It comes from not wanting to know and being willfully ignoring the plights of those below them.
I always thought ignorance could be more dangerous than wanting.
Well, absolutely can.
I feel like there's a difference between want and greed. And I also feel like that ignorance is at least something you can change.
Well, I mean, you think about ignorance, and you think about people willingly choosing to ignore facts when they're placed in front of them.
Yes. That's not ignorance, in my opinion.
That is ignorance. That's what ignorance is a willful suspension of disbelief. It's whenever you, like, there's a difference of, like, not knowing because you haven't had the opportunity to learn, but being given the opportunity to seek out knowledge and refusing to accept it is ignorant. Like, so okay. So, I mean, you see it in every day. You get on freaking Facebook.
Yeah, but that's still dangerous.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. No, I definitely think I think you're right. You get on Facebook, and, like, you can look at it in this day and age. People are out here like, did you know blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's not even true.
Flat earthers.
You didn't even try to see if what you were saying was something that could be backed up by truth in any way, shape, or form. It's just, but in this case, in the case of this novel, it's people who are in a safe enough position that they feel like it's okay to ignore those who are not. They're basically saying everybody's situation is precarious. Tomorrow I could be on the street, so I better just ignore it. And the fact that is a possibility, the fact that is happening to other people, because right now I'm fine. It's basically the mindset of, if a problem doesn't affect me, it's not a problem.
That's still definitely an issue we have today with the current situation with poverty in the world.
With poverty or anything, it's like, I mean, I have someone I know who is basically one of those people, a very good person I like a lot and respect in a lot of ways, who has told me on more than one occasion, well, that's not something that affects me. And I'm like, that doesn't mean it's not an issue. Like, just because you're not, just because you're not poor or a person of color or a queer person or whatever that is affected by certain things that are happening, doesn't mean those things aren't still happening and aren't wrong.
Yeah.
And it's ignorant of you to refuse to acknowledge them. And I think that's what the Ghost of Christmas Present is getting at. I feel like he's saying, there are people who are in need, and you are a person who has the capability to help them, but you choose to live in ignorance because that is more comfortable for you. Which is why I would agree with you that ignorance is worse. Like, it is bad to not have things. It's bad to not have the things you need to survive. But it's worse to be a person who can make a change in the lives of people who don't have the things they need, and you choose not to because it's a more comfortable position for you.
Yeah, I agree.
That's selfish.
Yeah, very selfish, and that is not what Christmas is about.
Which is to say, with pertaining to Scrooge in particular, this ghost is here to tell Scrooge, your love of money and your like work ethic are not the things that are bad about you. The fact that you don't use your position to help others is the bad thing about you.
Yes.
And I find it that's why I find that ghost so disturbing, because I feel like he's the most honest, but also just the visual of like him whipping this coat back and these two like sunken faced little monsters.
That's terrifying.
It scares the shit out of me.
Did you ever see the was it the Christmas Carol that Disney just did? The CGI one.
With Jim Carrey?
Yeah, with Jim Carrey.
I never did see it.
Yeah, we went and saw it, and that...
They just did that like 8 years ago.
I'm old.
Time flies.
It does. But they did a scene with that in the Ghost of... Because that is normally something that gets left out.
No, there was a version.
Well, like, when they do, like, the kids' version, like, it wasn't in a Muppet Christmas Carol. Like, that's like, if they're like, this is a kids' version, they don't put that in there, typically.
It was in that version, wasn't it?
No, it was not in Muppet Christmas Carol.
Are you sure?
I'm sure, because the Ghost of Christmas Present is sitting on a bench with Scrooge and fades out into, like, glittery, sparkly rainbow specks.
This is the first version that I saw that really traumatized me with that.
Yes,
I don't know
I've
which
seen that
version
version.
it is. I'm trying to figure out.
That's not, what's that old guy's name? Jonathan, I know this is your favorite story. It's the one with the kind of chestnut-haired Santa Claus robe look like, and the kids are wearing paper bags. You'll know which one it is. And it's the one old guy that's not Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, those.
But it's still in color.
This version.
Tell me which one it is.
That is,
George C. Scott. It's the George C. Scott version.
George C. Scott version. So like the most classic version.
Yes.
So that's the first time I saw them.
That's terrifying.
They're very scary.
That's terrifying. But like in the one that Disney did that was CGI, they showed what these kids would probably become, and the girl grew up to be kind of like, they aged her up real quick, and she was a sex worker, and then they aged the boy up, and he became like a robber and a mugger and a thief. Kind of a thing. And it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. That was probably one of the best transitions I ever saw, though, between the Ghost of Christmas Present and the Ghost of Christmas Future. That was horrifying.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
And they're not in the
Muppet Christmas Carol.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
No.
I think I'm combining the George C. Scott and
With
Muppet Christmas Carols in my mind.
Yeah, George C.
Because
Scott
I've seen the George C. Scott one the most, other than a Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
It's the classic one.
It is. It's the classic
And he's
one.
really good at Scrooge.
Yes. He is very good at Scrooge. Patrick Stewart also does a fantastic job as Scrooge.
Yes. Well, Patrick Stewart does a fantastic job of.
I would say probably the version of A Christmas Carol I have seen the most is, like, my top three are, like, the UMKC play that I saw every year since I was small.
You still go to that?
I do occasionally kind of, like, when they started doing A Christmas Story, they're like, oh, we're not doing A Christmas Carol anymore, we're doing A Christmas Story.
Ralphie.
And they tried that for, like, 5 years and no one came. Because they marathoned on TMC or whatever all day on Christmas
God.
Day.
Jimmy plays that on, my stepdad plays that.
I don't care.
Like, he literally just leaves it on. Like, the movie is good, but, like, when you see it 6 times in the same day, it kind of loses its
luster.
Yeah.
So I've seen that one, A Muppet Christmas Carol, and the other version I've seen the most is Scrooged.
With Bill Murray. It's like a modern adaptation.
Yeah, a modern adaptation.
And it's kind of comedic.
It is.
Bill Murray is just funny.
It is. It's hilarious.
I love Scrooge. I haven't watched that in years.
Scrooged is so good.
I have not watched it in years.
It's so good.
The thing is, I'm not big on Christmas, and so I don't watch a lot. Like, at Halloween, like, find me watching A Nightmare Before Christmas and, like, you know, Corpse Bride and Ghostbusters. But come Christmas time, I'm like, if I can avoid watching a bunch of stupid Christmas movies, I will. My dad and my stepmom always have a night where they watch It's a Wonderful Life. And it's a good movie. It is. But
yeah, it is a good movie.
It's also a long movie.
We're going to heaven, Clarence.
It's a long movie.
It is a long movie.
And also, I've seen it a billion times.
So you're kind of over it.
Also, I don't really like Christmas. Like, it's exhausting. Like, I think that the general concept of Christmas, the Christmas that is presented by like the ghosts in it, like
Yeah.
that it's a time to be together with family and to be happy and celebratory. Like, sure, I like those concepts, but I don't. To me, the whole concept of like you have to have a specific date on the calendar to do those things, it seems contrived. I'm like, you can spend time with family and appreciate each other and be thankful for the things you have without a specific day on the calendar telling you to do so.
Yeah, and I feel like Christmas now too, like when you're a child, it's just like wonder and magic and fantastic. But like the older you get, the more it's you come to realize that there are expectations and they have to be met, and that's stressful, and that can cause added friction in families if someone's like, well, my expectation is not being met because you're meeting another expectation of somebody else who you care about. And
right, and it's like all about how much money did you spend, what kind of presents did you get, are we going to argue about politics, are we going to argue about, this or that or the other. It's not fun. It makes the holidays exhausting instead of a time you can enjoy with your family.
I mean, like, it's fine to have traditions, but it's also fine if something doesn't happen one year.
Yeah. Like people acting like it's the end of the world if, you don't. Like in our house, we have a tradition of Christmas Eve, you get to open one present. And that present is always pajamas.
Yes. That was a tradition in my house as well.
And that present is always pajamas, and then you wear those pajamas at night.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom doesn't work anymore. She's had, back injuries, and she has all this stuff. And so, like, last year she didn't have money to go buy pajamas for people, and she was all worked up about it. And I was like, that's not the important thing. And, like, I mean, it ended up being fine because, like, my brother's girlfriend, Darla, went out and bought pajamas for everybody.
Yeah, and that's really sweet. Yeah.
But, like, it's like it wouldn't have been the end of the world if we didn't have pajamas. Like, that's not, I mean, we're all together under the same roof. Isn't that good enough? Like, I understand that traditions are fun and you want them, but, like, sometimes I think they put too much pressure on people. And sometimes I think there's an expectation that you're supposed to behave a certain way.
And when A Christmas Carol was published, a lot of these traditions had been dying out, and Christmas was seen as more of a religious holiday than it was a family celebration, gift-giving thing.
Right.
And so a lot of those were old traditions that Charles Dickens brought back because of the popularity of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. I don't know. I read Christmas stories and I'm like, it's just they don't move me the way that I think they're intended to move people.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a little bit cynical about Christmas.
I think the older you get, it's impossible to not become a little cynical about Christmas. I mean, that's why we all appreciate the Grinch so much. Because we're like, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of taken to the extreme in the Grinch.
But I do appreciate the messages that are in this book. That like, use the things that you have in life to help other people and be kind to each other. Like, that's a good message, and I can accept that. And we got off track.
We did.
But there's one more ghost.
Yes, Ghost of Christmas Future.
The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. Like, the Ghost of Christmas Future, technically, but Yet to Come sounds more old-timey. Sounds more old-timey and ominous than ever.
And this
he looks like the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, never speaks.
He doesn't speak at all. Or the ghost, it doesn't speak at all.
Well,
it's just,
what is in every human's future? Death.
Everybody dies.
Everybody.
So this ghost comes along in this dark robe, hooded robe, and is leading Scrooge through this mysterious sequence of events surrounding the death of some person.
Is one hand. The rest of it is just black. And it says, I think this is interesting, it's like the longer he stared under the hood to try and see the face, the darker the hood became.
Yeah.
And the less he could see.
So Scrooge is led by this ghost around to see all these people and, like, the surrounding events of some man's death. So this man has died, and then there are some businessmen discussing, like, what's going to happen with his money.
Yeah.
There's some, like, vagabonds who are stealing his property and selling it for petty cash.
And
isn't there like a poor couple that's, like, celebrating the fact that he died?
He wants to see some tenderness or some emotion connected to the death of this man, and what the spirit shows him is this couple being happy at the death of this man because they are now they have enough time to get the money together to pay off their lender. and they're just relieved, and they're like, oh, well, we can go to bed with glad hearts tonight.
Because he's dead.
Because he's dead, and we're safe.
And then Scrooge, who I think has known all along.
Yeah, I think he's known.
I think he's known all along.
How can you not?
Starts to insist that the ghost tell him who the man is who has died.
Yes. Because he probably knows it's him, he just doesn't want to believe it.
So the ghost leads him to a church graveyard.
Yes.
To the grave of the man who has died.
Yes, but before that, Scrooge also wanted to see some tenderness connected with the dead, and it shows the death of Tiny Tim. Mm-hmm. Which really
was a sickly child in the
yes.
in the best of circumstances.
And very kind. But it's like, it shows Bob Cratchit, who even in his grief tries to stay cheerful for the holiday of Christmas and his family. But the spirit does take Scrooge to the graveyard.
And Scrooge is pointed to a tombstone, which is the tombstone of the man who they have all been discussing in this vision.
Who has died.
And surprisingly, no one at this point.
No one.
Everyone's read this book or seen a variation of it.
Yes.
The tombstone reads
Ebenezer Scrooge.
And Scrooge falls to his knees, begs to know how that he can prevent this future that he has seen from happening.
Yeah.
The ghost doesn't talk, because the ghost has never talked. The ghost just kind of looks at him and is like,
tough luck, man.
And so Scrooge is swearing that he'll renounce his, greed and avarice.
And his ways.
And he's going to change his ways, and he's going to be a better person. And then he wakes up in his bed.
Yes. And
Christmas
morning, he is happy as can be.
Because he's not dead, and he feels
he has time. He has time to change, to make things better. And so he gets, you there, boy, go get the turkey from the poulterers in the shop around the corner. What, the one as big as me?
That's the one that I find so funny. It's one of those, weirdly, there's lots of things within this. It's a classic story.
Yeah.
And so we've all, we all know it, and we all recognize him from it. But specifically one that sticks in my memory is him flinging open the shutters and just, yelling down into the street at some random gamblin. Hey, you, child!
Imagine if it was Gavroche.
Gavroche.
I always say it wrong.
Well, it's French, So, yeah, he just, yells down at the first street urchin he sees to run to the store and buy him this turkey. I don't know why, but this is the image of him in his, old-timey striped, sleep shirt and stocking cap, sticking his head out the window, and the snow is coming down, and some little, urchin and all
he's
brown.
My small dude, what day is it? Awesome, sweet, go buy me a giant turkey.
Go buy me the giant turkey in the butcher window.
He might have been high.
Yeah, he was high on life.
Yeah, high on life.
So he sends this kid to buy the turkey. He has the turkey delivered to the Cratchits.
Yes.
And then he goes to Fred's house. He shows up.
Yes. He goes to church.
Well, yeah, he goes to church.
And then he goes to Fred's house.
Goes to church, does the confession thing. And then he goes to Fred's. And
he spends all day at Fred's house.
Everyone is kind of shocked that he's there.
But they're thrilled to have him.
They are. After about 30 seconds, when it becomes clear that he's not there to bitch or, demand money.
That was something that in the CGI Christmas Carol that they did, I was very pleased with. Was when he went there, he told Fred, he's like, "I've come to dinner if you'll have me," which is him kind of being like, "I know I screwed up, I'm sorry." Mm-hmm. Which is, I also very much remember in the UMKC version of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge being on the street he and this kid trying to learn how to laugh together, and it's going poorly.
Yeah, and the whole day he spends.
Yeah.
He throws money into the hats of paupers on the street.
He finds people who came looking for a donation the day before, and he gives them
a huge amount of money.
Huge amount of money, which is never stated, which is probably good. But he says that he's just come see me.
Yeah, it's very, the Christmas Carol, and I noticed, I'm kind of watching because, we're recording.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing this isn't taking us long, partially because everyone knows the story.
Yeah.
But partially because the Christmas Carol is not long.
No, it's not.
It almost reads like a biblical parable.
Yeah.
You think of the parables that are told in, the Bible, where Jesus sits down and he's like, there was a man, and he was doing this stupid thing.
And it is.
And then he learned a lesson, and this is how he changed. it's the same thing with Scrooge. It's like there was a man who was very greedy.
Yeah.
And then he was visited by 3 spirits who showed him how he should be treating his fellow human being. And if he didn't, that horrible things would befall him. When he woke up, he realized he had a second chance to be a good person.
And it is a story of redemption. Mm-hmm. So it's very much along that line.
It's definitely like very parabolic, and it's very I don't want to call it like after school special, because I feel like it's more valuable than that. Yeah. But it's very much like, you can have like, there's nothing wrong with the story that doesn't have a strong moral, but this story is predicated on the moral.
Yes, it is, definitely.
And the lesson that Scrooge learns is one that we can all kind of take value in, because even if it's not Christmas, and even if we're not wealthy, there are still things we can be doing.
We knew how to keep Christmas well all through the year.
Yeah, there are still things we can be doing for other people. There are still ways that we can be helping people around us. Even if you don't have $1,000 to drop in a beggar's basket, or just the money to go buy a turkey for somebody's Thanksgiving party, you can call up a friend who you know has been having a hard time and ask them how they are. Or you can, pay for the person behind you in line at Starbucks coffee. Like, there are things we can do, and I think it's important, especially since there is kind of this idea that during Christmas people are good to each other.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do, but they don't necessarily establish that as their behavior year round. And I think it's just a good reminder that it doesn't have to be, you don't have an excuse, you don't have a reason to be good to other people.
Yeah, just be good to other people, be kind, take care of each other.
Regardless of whether it's Christmas or not.
Enjoy being with the people you love while you can.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And Scrooge, it ends with he knew how to keep Christmas well and all through the year. And he even, at the end, he even helps out Bob Cratchit, makes him a partner. And he's like, I will help you. I will endeavor to help you in your struggling family.
Yeah.
I will do everything I can. And that's really, this is my brother's favorite story. When we did my birthday show, we did Beauty and the Beast, which is my story. A Christmas Carol is my brother's. He owns every version. Every version. He even owns like a really nice book version, and my brother has a hard time with old-timey language and literature, but he worked to read it because he wants to know the original version, because he loves the story of redemption.
Yeah. And again, this is a story that has become bigger than itself.
Yes.
Like it's always a funny thing, because I got this book off of Project Gutenberg to read.
Yeah.
Because it's French.
Yeah.
And there's nothing quite like being so popular that you become classic, and then you become so popular that people no longer have to pay for your literature.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
There is, I have last year, I got it because it was on like special for 50 cents from Audible. And it was Audible's special reading of it, narrated by none other than Tim Curry.
I love it.
It's fantastic.
Love it.
So it's only like, you said it's a short book. I'm like, yeah, it's only like 3.5 hours.
It's
on Audible.
It's really a novella.
Yeah.
It's really a novella. I think if I remember correctly, it appeared for the first time in
He wrote it in like 4 parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first part is...
So the full title is A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas, and it is a novella. Published first in 1843, and it looks like he wrote it during the period when the British were exploring and reevaluating Christmas traditions, including carols and newer things like Christmas trees, which are German. He had already written several Christmas stories before this, but none of them were as big of a deal. This was published on the 19th of December, and it sold out by Christmas Eve. By the end of 1844, 13 different editions had been released.
This is one that Charles Dickens, while he was alive, was so popular that around the Christmas season he would tour and he would read it out loud, and people would come for a full evening of it. They'd just be like, yep, 3 hours of Charles Dickens reading the sword, which was something that I liked with UMKC that they did, was it started out with Charles Dickens, and he was the narrator for the whole story. Right. But yeah, we were talking about carols, and that is the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories. And my brother loves that carol. And he's like, I don't get it, though. Ghost stories seem kind of more Halloween. And I'm like, Jonathan, a Christmas carol. He's like, oh!
Yeah. This is interesting. This says, the legacy of Christmas Carol.
Yes.
The phrase Merry Christmas has been around for many years. Earliest known written use was in a letter in 1534. But Dickens' use of the term in the novella popularized it among the Victorian public, along with the exclamation, bah humbug, the name Scrooge as a designation for a miser, and the fact that Christmas traditions could be celebrated within the city as well as in more of a peasant or countryside area. The modern observance of Christmas is largely a result of this mid-Victorian revival of the holiday. Dickens captured the zeitgeist while reflective and reinforcing the vision of Christmas. Yes. So that's kind of interesting, and like he really focused on the humanitarian aspect of Christmas more than anything else, and that really resonated with people, I think.
So, what is your favorite Christmas tradition that you have with your family?
It's not so much a tradition as it is just the way Christmas is done.
I know there's the added complication of your birthday.
My birthday is Christmas Eve. But no, I mentioned the Christmas pajamas thing, and I do like that. But weirdly enough, even though it's kind of stressful, I've kind of come to be used to and love the way my Christmas mornings go. Because my parents are divorced. My dad remarried and had another 5 sons and has recently adopted another 2 daughters. And so when I was a kid, my brother and I would go to my dad's on Christmas Eve during the day, in the early evening or the early afternoon. We would do like a little birthday celebration for me. Then we'd go back to my mom. My mom insisted I wasn't allowed to open any birthday presents until the time I was born, which was 8:34 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Rude.
It was Eastern Standard Time, 9:30.
No one else has that rule.
My mom has that rule. And then we would do our Christmas pajamas, and we would go to bed. In the morning, we would get up, we would have breakfast, and we would rush through opening all our presents, me and my brother. And then we rushed to my dad's house because my dad made all of my brothers wait until we were there so we could all open presents together. But since they were all younger than us, like making small children wait
is almost impossible.
And so we always had to hurry.
It's like teaching poetry to fish.
So even though it was kind of rushed, it's just become how my Christmas is. In the morning, you start at one house and then you pop to the next house, and now it's changed too because my brother has sons.
Yeah.
And so we go from my mom's house to my brother's house. My mom comes with us, and we all watch my nephews open presents, and then we go and we open our presents, and then we go to my dad's house and open the presents with all my other brothers. Yeah. So a lot of bouncing around, but it's just kind of how things are done. Like it's not necessarily a tradition, but it's something that is comforting in its expectedness, I guess.
Yeah. My great-grandmother, who lived to be almost 100 years old, so she was like 12, 13. I was like 12 or 13 when she passed, so I remember her. Her birthday was also Christmas Eve. So we would spend Christmas Eve with my dad's family, and then my brother and I would wait for the annual Christmas Eve fight. That was inevitable to happen. Because we would go to Christmas Eve with my dad's family, and then he would get to see all of his cousins, and craziness would ensue, and he would lose track of time inevitably, and my mom would just be like, we have to go to birthday dinner for Emma, and so we would wait for the fight would happen, we would go to dinner, things would be fine, we would go home, we would be so tired, but my brother and I were too excited to sleep, so my mom would make us macaroni and cheese, and we would sit in our pajamas on my mom's bed because we were not allowed to have a TV in the living room because it was tacky. And so...
Oh, you upper middle class people
I know, right?
Wild, man. Fucking wild.
So we would go sit on my mom's bed in our pajamas eating macaroni and cheese, and we would watch a Muppet Christmas Carol on repeat until we fell asleep, and then my parents would put us to bed. And then we would get up at like 6 in the morning, like all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we were not allowed to wake up our parents until 6. That was the deal. So then at 6 we'd come bounding down the stairs, we'd be looking at, and my brother would have a very specific Christmas list. He'd just be like, these are all my items, and if he saw package that was too big or too small for something he'd asked for, he'd be like, "What's this? I don't know. I don't know if I like it." My mom's like, "It's a surprise." um, and so Christmas morning, we would always have to wait to open presents until my grandma and grandpa showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So we would not have like a bunch of running around because I don't have any cousins.
Mm-hmm.
All my parents' siblings came to our house.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
We were the only grandchildren in the family.
family.
Yeah. We are the only my brother and I are the only grandchildren in the family. We don't have any cousins or craziness.
Well, I thought of another tradition in my family that I like. It's very much a big family thing.
Yeah.
So when my dad has my granny, my dad's mom, has a big Christmas at her house. But there's also another Christmas, the Stone family Christmas. So she is from the Stone family. My grandpa, my papa, he's like the head of the Davidson family, and then she's his wife. But she is the Stone family. So my grandma Velda has sisters, Vicky, Verlina, Vanna, and
Valerie?
No. Is it just the four of them? I feel like I'm missing one. I'm really sorry. Vicky, Verlina, Vanna, Velda. I think there's just four of them.
Velvet?
So they have the Stone family Christmas. And so my granny is married to my papa. And one of her sisters is married to his brother. His brother Gerald. So we have this thing that we do every time we go to the Stone family Christmas, which I haven't been to it for a few years because the timing is different.
Yeah.
But this thing that we always do is where the family sings, the whole family, and there's like 100 people. I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
With all the cousins and the grandkids and the great grandkids, and we sing the 12 days of Christmas. And there's only two.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
So the parts get divvied up into families and stuff. So like it'll be like, oh, Robin, you and your whole family are singing 5 golden rings.
Oh, that's so
Ricky,
fun.
you and your family are singing 4 calling birds. But the thing that is always consistent every year is that my papa, Ronald, and my great uncle, Gerald, who are brothers, are the 2 turtle doves.
Aww.
So there's these 2 old men with these real deep baritone voices, 2 turtle doves. And so everybody each has a different assignment. Yeah. And so we sing through the whole 12 days of Christmas.
Oh, that's so fun.
And then everybody sings, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, now one of my married now. One of my favorite things is like Christmas Eve is now my husband and I, we go over to his parents in Topeka, and they always have a real Christmas tree, which I glad they do, and I love it. But I would never have one in my house because needles and vacuuming.
Did you not grow up with real Christmas trees?
No, I have an artificial one.
So even as a kid?
Even as a kid. We had one real Christmas tree, and it was the quote-unquote cake Christmas tree in the unfinished basement, so that way when the needles fell, it wasn't a big deal. And that was also the only Christmas tree that was allowed to have colored lights. My brother and I always wanted colored lights. My mom's like, no, we're having white tree. You've seen my tree. You know everything has to color coordinate.
The thing you have to understand is the tree that we had. Yeah. And my mom. Okay, so my stepmom now has a huge house. My dad designed this house. They built it. It was their dream house. It was like this huge process. And now they have this 13-foot tall tree. It's all white lights, and then all of the decorations are, for the most part, gold and red. It's so beautiful. It looks like it came off of a magazine, and it's 13 feet tall.
So my tree.
My mom's tree is always a real tree.
Yes.
We go pick it out. We would always go pick it out together, and then it would be like maybe 5 feet tall.
Sure.
It'd be 5 feet tall, and we would put like 5 or 6 strings, like way more strings of lights than it needed.
Okay. So the reason we only had 1 year where we had a real tree is because my grandparents, bless their heart, my mom and my poppy, took my brother and I to a Christmas tree farm, and we got to pick out our Christmas tree. And then they had a cat at this Christmas tree farm, and my brother does not like cats, and I'm like, Kitty! And so this cat loved me, and this cat saw my brother, and then just like attached to him and wanted pets, and my brother freaked the hell out, and so we were never allowed to go get a real Christmas tree because he claims he was attacked by a cat.
No, we went to farms sometimes. Sometimes we'd just go in the woods, I think, and Jenny would take an axe. But we always would get a real tree, and it'd be kind of like a a dumpy kind of tree, a little sideways, about 5 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
We put way more lights on it than were necessary. They'd all be colored lights. There's one string of lights that we had that had a little fat Santa put a button on his belt. And they were, I mean, like at this point, those lights, we still have them, but they're basically like almost white lights because all the color is chipped off of the bulbs because they're so old.
That's awesome.
And it, whenever you pressed his they would flash, and he would sing. There's like a little speaker on the back of him that would play like Christmas carols, like little 8-bit Christmas carols, and they're kind of warped now because it's so old. But then we'd have a bunch of others, and then we'd put the icicle tinsels on it, which are super messy. And then all of these ornaments, which were like 90% of the ornaments were something sentimental that someone had given my mom, or something really crappy looking that my brother and I had made.
See, that was the kid Christmas tree in our house.
That was the Christmas
That was the kid Christmas tree in our house. And then the one we had
so
upstairs was white lights, and all of the ornaments were small photos of the family through the years. So it was either like they were all in silver frames with red velvet ribbon, and there was white lights and silver and gold beads, and an angel on top. That was the tree.
And upper middle class people are fucking wild.
Well, it got to the point where it's like the tree was so full of photos, and I loved it because when I was small, I would sit in the living room, and the only light would be the tree, and I would look at all the photos of everyone in the family, and so that was really cool. And it would be a good kind of remembering Christmases past thing,
right?
And now that I have my own tree, it's an artificial tree, white lights, it's all red and gold, and I'd see ornaments, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't match my colors.
No, I think a tree.
I
think a
Christmas.
I
even do
tree,
the little filler thing, the little floral filler things. It looks like it came out
like,
of Halls.
Listen, like I'll look at a picture of a fancy Christmas tree on a magazine, but I think a Christmas tree should look like a yard sale in a forest. Frankly, it should be rainbow colors.
Yeah.
It should be literally. Karina and I went to the store after Christmas and like picked up some Christmas ornaments on discount because it was after Christmas, and we got the most rainbowy ones there were. We have colored lights. We have all these weird. I have a yellow submarine. One of my brothers got me for Christmas,
awesome.
like the Beatles yellow submarine. We have some weird ones that her mom got us. Like a Christmas tree should be just a cacophony. It should be an absolute chaos. It should
$5
look like,
vocab word of the day.
It should look like someone threw up a rainbow onto a pine tree. And like we have an artificial tree now. I get that. Like it's easier. You're not going to set your house on fire as easy.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I'm more sentimental than I am practical in terms of aesthetic beauty. I'd rather have an ugly tree that I have sentiment about than like a perfectly beautiful tree.
And I still have, like, I would get ornaments every year, and so what I would do is my mom would have, like, maybe 2 to 3 foot tall mini Christmas trees that each kid had in their room, and so that was where they could put the ornaments.
I have a ceramic mini tree
gave them
that I've had since I was a child. It's ceramic, and it's got little butterflies and birds that like fit. They're pegs that fit into holes on the tree, and they're all rainbow colored. I love that tree.
Yeah. So like. Anyway, back on track to the story I was
telling.
Been
off track for the last 15 minutes.
Was that I go over to my in-laws and they have a real Christmas tree and they still have like the little bubble lights and stuff. But like my favorite thing is when we go over there, they do little stockings for all of their kids. And there was one year that I went and they're just like, oh well, Paul and I weren't engaged yet, and so I didn't get a stocking. And so I distinctly remember my first Christmas I went, and we had just gotten engaged, like maybe 4 months, like 4 weeks before. And so I got there, and I had a stocking, and I was so excited. So I love the stockings. And
we always have stockings at my mom's house. They are these long, like they're literal stockings, like that people could wear. Like mine's argyle and red. My brother's is argyle and green. And my stepmom she alternates. So she literally has a fireplace, so she hangs them. There's like cream colored, red colored, cream colored, red colored, and they're in order of age.
Yeah, the stockings are probably definitely my favorite.
We have stockings,
tradition.
and Karina and I have stockings too for us, and then also for all the pets.
Yeah, and
so
my parents still have stockings for everyone in the family, and the stockings we have for my family were hand crocheted by my mother.
Very fun.
And they have our names on it. So mine says Elizabeth, and there's a little crocheted angel on it. My brother has a little Santa, and it says Jonathan. And my mom mom has a reindeer and it says Dara.
Well, we have to credit Charles Dickens.
Yes.
For our stockings.
For stockings.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Dick.
Yeah.
I saw the opportunity and I took it.
So we've spent the last 15 minutes reminiscing about our personal Christmases. So I think it's only fair to say that if you have any fun Christmas traditions that you like, tell us about them on Twitter.
Yes.
Come and find us at Wine Literature on Twitter and tell us your favorite Christmas traditions.
Oh, Casey, we haven't done a bottle rating.
I know. Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I was just saying, since we got off of the literature and onto the Christmas, I felt like they deserve an opportunity to tell us too. So if you have favorite Christmas traditions, come tell us on Twitter about your favorite Christmas traditions. Post pictures of your childhood Christmases on our Twitter.
Or cute dogs in Christmas outfits.
Or cute dogs in Christmas outfits.
Or cats.
We love animals. But we also love actual books, which is what we were really here to talk about.
Yes.
So, Liz,
books are
how many bottles would you give A Christmas Carol, a novella about ghosts? I don't remember the actual title.
In 4 parts. I'd probably say it's around 3 because it's like I like the story. I love the story, but I am also fascinated by every iteration that has followed.
It's the same as what was the one we said the other day?
Dracula.
It's become bigger than it is.
Yeah, it's become bigger than
the story itself is
originally.
good, but what it has spawned is far more interesting.
Yeah,
I'd give it 3 bottles.
Except for Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. That was terrible.
I liked it. I thought it was stupid. I liked it. It was a stupid rom-com. You know, every now and then you need one of those. And Jennifer Garner's cute. She's a cutie. I like her.
McConaughey was. I didn't like it.
Oh, he's
McConaughey.
Anyway, I would also give it 3 bottles, which gives an average of 3 bottle rating for A Christmas Carol.
Woo! And no math, an extra Christmas present.
Yes. So, this is our first Christmas episode. We will have another coming up, so keep your eye out for that. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And check out all of our other episodes on our website.
Yeah, and keep an eye on your podcast feed. You might get a little special something from us for Christmas as well.
Maybe. Who can say?
Cheers.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturepodcast.com or check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation.
Cheers.